Hello, I hope you guys can hear me.
Yep, all looks good.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Joe. So welcome everyone. First of all, I would like to congratulate and say thanks to Project Tech for organizing this Maximo solution group. And I will be taking you through with an add-on that is related with applying FMEA on Maximo. And I will be telling you about the story, how this thing came up, and then what are the different functionalities which are available into it. So with that, quickly my introduction. So my name is Prashant, and I work in EAM360 mobile app as a delivery head, and I'm IBM champion 2022 and last year 2023, and I have around 16 years of experience in implementing Maximo and Maximo mobility. So so to start with, first thing that I would like to take you back. So it's just a step back for us to think that why we all use Maximo. I think most of us who are here uses Maximo, and then the idea is that we want to ensure that our asset remains reliable, right? And you might have seen this particular curve. So this particular curve is known as bar top curve, and this basically curve shows the failure rate for any asset, and it has been observed that during the time you will be installing them versus when you are going to decommissioning it and when you are going to operate them, there will be a period, and then if you will be drawing the failures, you will be able to see this kind of graph which looks like a bathtub. And the idea is that we have to basically use um, different tools like Maximo and different techniques to flatten this curve, right? So this is what we are trying to do, and so we are going to go and we have invented that there are different kind of maintenance techniques. So if you see that if I take over a period of time, you will be able to see that earlier days mostly we used to do reactive maintenance, and then finally we came to preventive maintenance. Then we started looking for condition monitoring, and now we are looking for predictive and prescriptive maintenance. So these are different these are different asset maintenance techniques or different kind of maintenance that we are doing end to end. And then today if you see any organization which are using any assets for any kind of production, you will be able to see that dual will be a mix of these. So you are going to find out the critical assets, and you will be giving preference for them for predictive maintenance or prescriptive maintenance. There might be some asset, for example, if you have a pump and the pump cost is not very high, you have a replacement pump, and then if that particular pump goes down, you do not have too much impact on your production, right? So in that particular case, you are not going to do a predictive maintenance or prescriptive maintenance on it, right? Rather than you will be actually going for some other critical asset. But if you take the other side, that if you have a pump which is $1 million pump, and then if it goes down, it is going to impact our production significantly. In that particular case, we have to consider this as a critical asset, and then we have to go for predictive maintenance or other kind of maintenance, right? So basically what I'm trying to say, that in an organization you have mix of maintenance techniques being used, and then everything going all together to ensure the critical assets are being reliable, and you are not doing over maintenance and you are not doing under maintenance. The whole gambit is known as liability centered maintenance, right? Which has all kind of techniques which has been listed here, right? But then the question comes, how are you going to decide it, right? You might have multiple different assets, and then you need to take this decision on each and every asset. So then you need a tool, you need a technique, and that particular tool or technique is known as FMEA, right? So this FMEA, the full form is failure mode effect analysis. So what you do in this particular technique is that you will be basically finding out the failure. So for each and every asset, first of all, you have to identify what are the critical assets, and then for that you have to look through all of your assets, and then you have to see what are the different failures which are possible. So you have to find out what are the intended function of this particular asset and what is the failure that is going to happen. Then what are the different modes or different problems that are you going to have, right? You have to find out that, okay, this particular asset may have this kind of problem, because each asset can have different kind of problem, right? Then you have to find out what is the effect of it, that if my asset is going down, how much effect it is going to do, whether I am going into production stoppage, whether I am having down or that is downtime, I have incident, maybe I have some injuries, maybe I have some lost time, right? So you have to do this effect analysis, and finally you have to do analyze that what can I do to improve the situation, right? So for that, we need to have a tool which will help us to identify all these things, and that is what the use of this particular RCM add-on. So if I am going to define this particular process and I'm going to showcase the different screens of Maximo, how this is going to happen, you will be able to relate this flow. But if you will be starting this FMEA process, somewhere you have to start with first thing setting up the failure codes. So your failure code and the hierarchy. So ISO 55000 basically says that you have to have a well-defined failure codes. And generally you need to have failure code as per the asset hierarchy or the location hierarchy, whichever is critical for you, right? So you are going to set up the failure code, you are going to set up the problem cause remedy, then you are going to do the analysis of criticality assessment of how my asset and location is going to have, which asset is having high criticality. You may need to assign the failure class to it, and you have to decide what is the maintenance strategy that I'm going to take. So this maintenance strategy will decide that whether this asset, if this is a critical asset, then you might be doing PM and CM both of it. There might be some asset for which is not that critical, so you might be doing just, you might allowing it to do just run to failure, right? So this is the second thing that you are going to do. After that, you will be associating the different problem codes. So you can do that with asset or location, or you can do the components. We'll talk about it. And then you will be defining the different PMs. So for every problem, you need to have a PM, right? You clearly know that for this particular problem, I have a PM, and my PM will be taking care of this particular problem when the work order will be generated. After that, you are going to give ability for the technician to do the failure reporting, specifically on CM and BD work order. Because what happens many times, we have seen that organization do not maintain the proper failure code data, or the technician do not fill what was the problem that happened, right? So we need to do this. Also, we have to give a ability for them to provide the work feedback and recommendation. So if your technicians or engineers are experts, then they will be actually able to give you the recommendations, right? That okay, whether this PM was done on the time, whether this PM was not done on the time, so you will have the ability to record it. And then finally, you use that particular feedback and then tune your PMs and your job plan and your maintenance strategy, right? And after that, you have to validate, you have to see how the maintenance is going on. If you are still having problems, if you are still having unwanted downtimes, right, you are still having unwanted CM. So for that, you have a tool to do the 5-way analysis. And then on the basis of 5-way analysis, you can basically define, you can redefine your PM, you can redefine your job plans, right? You can make the changes and you can modify, you can create new. So this is how the whole flow is, basically, where we are talking about consider looking after each and every asset, then mapping them with a problem, then identifying the cause of each problem, and giving the ability for our technicians to give us the data which is useful for us, look back how the maintenance is going on, and then see that what are the different actions that I can take, and then revise my maintenance strategy and my maintenance accordingly, right? So this is how the whole process of FMEA is going to happen. So let's see how this will happen in Maximo. So I have to taken some of the screenshots from Maximo, so that there is no need for us to switch between Maximo and and the PPT. So first of all, as I said, we have to set up the failure code, and failure code will happen, setup will happen in our out of the box application, which is failure code, where you have to define problem, cause, and remedy, right? The second thing is, after once you do this, you have to do criticality assessment. As I said, that you should know there's a term which is known as, when we go for FMEA, the term which is known as is RPN, that is risk priority number. This risk priority number is nothing but the priority of our asset. So we should know that what is the risk or what is the priority for this particular asset. I am doing maintenance of this asset, but whether this particular asset is really eligible, for doing this much maintenance, am I doing over maintenance or am I doing under maintenance on a particular asset? So for that particular thing, you will require some parameters, and you need to consider what is the consequences of the failure and what is the probability of the failure. So you will be calculating this consequences of failure and probability of the failure, and then accordingly you will also be defining the maintenance strategy. So here, if you notice that there are multiple factors which are there, it will be calculating the consequence of failure, and multiple different factors which will be calculating probability of failure. Obviously these failures can be changed as per your requirement, right? This is just configuration which can be very well changed. And then finally, on the basis of it, we will get the priority, and on the priority you can decide what is the maintenance strategy. So you can have only do CM of an asset, you only want PM to be done, you want PM and CM both to be done, or you want it run to failure. right? So you can decide this, and you can do mass update. We also provide ability to do bulk update, where you can do this if you have multiple similar assets, right? Where you have say multiple pumps of similar nature. So what are you going to do? You will do this particular exercise on one asset, and then you will be able to bulk copy. So that particular action is also available. Once your the failure code is defined and your criticality assessment is done, then you will need to find out, you have to associate that what are the different problems which are associated with my asset. Now there are two different approaches here which we have seen. There are certain customers who have asset hierarchy and failure hierarchy defined very well, right? They have clearly defined the equipment hierarchy or asset hierarchy, and for every component they have a detailed failure code available, which has related problem cause remedy. But then there are certain customers who do not have the complete detail of asset hierarchy available. So for those particular questions, for the customers, you can go for component code, right, which will help you to extend what failure code hierarchy data is going to give you. Because one of the complaints from the customers in Maximo is that Maximo do not allow you to add more than one failure code. You can only associate one failure code on a work order, and then you can do just one problem cause remedy, right? So if they don't have the data, then they can go for component code. So in this particular thing, if you are having well-defined asset hierarchy, then you have to associate the PM with your asset. Basically, you have to associate the problems first with your asset, and for every problem, you have to associate the PM. So you will be able to see that if there is an existing PM associated, or you will be able to associate a new PM here also, right? So this is the first approach. Similarly, if you see the second approach, this is something which we did for one of our customers, where the asset and failure hierarchy is not very well defined. So what happens is that they are actually using component code, where these component codes are one level below of an asset. So for example, if there is a turbine, then the particular turbine has a stator, then it has many other components. So these component codes are defined because they do not have the stator and many other components defined as a child asset. So we have defined those things as a component, and you associate problems or failures with each component, and then you associate your PMs with each problem that you have. So this is the way you will be able to map it as per whatever is available for you and how is the data set up. To do this, we have to also have association and some data entry to be done on the PM, because as you have seen here, what are we doing is we are associating a PM. We are showing you the existing PM plan. So if you already have a problem, then for the particular thing, already this add-on is going to show you that for this particular problem, you already have a PM. So similarly on the PM, you have a new tab. In this particular tab, you are going to associate the problem code, and then this particular PM will be available. So once this is done, as I said, the technicians has to basically do the failure reporting, and for that particular thing, they will be basically doing problem cause remedy, right? And if you are using component, then you can also do that. This can very well done in the mobile app like EAM360, where you will be able to have the ability to choose the component. They will click on component, and they will have list of all the applicable component where they can choose which component has a failure. So the idea is that either approach you are taking, whether you are taking option 1 or option 2, you have to do the failure reporting. Once you have the failure reporting, then there is a tab which is work feedback. In this particular work feedback, we are basically taking the recommendation. So there are different kind of feedbacks which are possible. For example, you have feedback for planning work order. You are having feedback related with preventive maintenance work order, right? There is a PM. So you can ask that whether the PM was done on the time, it was not adequate, or how is that? And then finally, there can be feedback you can take or recommendation you can take on the corrective or breakdown, right? So you have this particular facility available where your technicians or your engineers who are working on work order can actually give you feedback. And then there are certain reports which you use to extract the information, and then finally you will be able to change your PMs or job plan. So what are the actions? As I said, what are the possible actions? You can create new PM. Maybe you will modify the existing PMs. This can be one thing. And then once you do, you will be able to see. You will monitor how the reports, how the behavior of maintenance is, how this asset is behaving, whether it is going down unnecessarily or it is not going down necessarily. You will be checking that, right? And then you will be actually monitoring it. And how you are going to monitoring it for that particular thing, there are certain reports which we have developed. So for example, this is a report of root cause problem report, which shows you top 10 problem with any asset. Then we also have a problem recurrence report, which will tell you that this particular top 10 problems, and this is the occurrence of each and every problem that we are having, right? You can run the report up to a particular point of time, and you can fetch the data. You can see that how many problems are there. You can do with this report. If you want to see if there is a downtime that can happen, then we also have MTTR and MTVF, which will actually we give you the different kind of downtime, what is MPT or MTBF, so you know that what is the impact happening, even though I have done the adjustment into my PM or my job plan. Then say for example, you have revised your PM and your job plan, you have added some PM, maybe you have added some job plan, and still you are having problems. You are seeing that still I am having unwanted downtime, or I am getting the CM work orders. In that particular case, there is an application which will give you a method to analyze what is the problem and how we can fix the problem. So for that particular thing, we give you 5-way analysis. So in the 5-way analysis, you will actually be doing a discussion. So generally, if you are having expert committee, or if you're having multiple different users who are working together, they will actually be coming together, and then you will find what are the 5 different whys and what are the reasons for this is happening. So you can do this. And on the basis of this casual analysis, you can do multiple things. You can directly revise, you can create a job plan, you can either create a new PM if you feel that the PM is not sufficient, or if you feel that something has to be revised, then you can always revise the job plan, or you can basically revise the PM. So these are the different acts, that you can do on the basis of the 5-way analysis. So what happens is, say for example, if you have created a PM and that particular PM has been generated because of a 5-way analysis, then in the PM tab itself, you have a placeholder where you will be able to find out that this particular PM was created or it was revised because of this particular thing. What was the problem and what are the remark? You can see this information right away from the PM record itself. So this is basically a linking that has been done. Other than that, what are the different things we have? So if you have noticed that there are multiple places where we are asking user to enter the data. So we are asking user to do failure reporting. We are asking user to give feedback. What if they miss it? So we have different escalations, which will be giving you the timely report. Obviously, this can be configured using a workflow, right? So that is also possible. Then there is a deviation report, which will tell you what are the different missing PM, that you have on asset or location. Then there is a report to fetch the feedback from the technician. What are the different recommendations they are giving against different asset and location? And then obviously there is no Java customization involved into this particular thing. So this particular thing, is totally done by the configuration, right? So this is it from this particular walkthrough. So okay, so now what I'm going to do is okay, so what I am going to do is, as we have some time available, so I think we can have a quick poll. So now, as I have gone through and I have tell you what exactly is the FMEA, so if you can let me know, are you guys using something like this? You can take a few seconds and then you can vote it out. Maybe 10 more seconds. Are you doing FMEA? If you are doing FMEA, then how are you doing FMEA? Are you doing FMEA on all the critical assets, or are you doing FMEA on only critical assets? How do you do it? So maybe 10 more seconds. There are some more votes coming in. Okay, maybe 10 more seconds for that. If you have not answered yet, and if you feel that, so you can please answer. Okay, so I will close this poll now, and I can see that okay, so I have 39% which says on critical assets, then 11% are saying we do FME on all the assets, and then there are 50% people who says that they do not do any kind of FMEA. So I believe this can be a new learning, maybe if you want to take it with you, and then maybe if you can start thinking into this direction, that can we start doing FME at least on our critical assets, right? So okay, and the other question, which I would request you to do is, do you have a well-defined failure code hierarchy on your assets? And do you have a process where your technician and engineer basically update them on work orders? If you can answer, please. Okay, we can take few more seconds. Okay, I believe we can take 10 more seconds if you want. We have time in our hand. Okay, so I will close this poll now, and let me share the result. So as we can see that we have 54% saying that yes, our technician do. We have well-maintained failure code hierarchy, and our technicians and engineers update them on work order. Then 38% say no, and then 8% say what is failure code hierarchy. So yes, so it's great to know, that 54% people are actually using this feature in Maximo, and then the other 46% obviously can start looking into it, and then they can start using it. Okay, so okay, so this is it. And if you have any questions, then you can please put those questions in the chat box, so I will be happy to answer them. So if there is a question, then please let me know. Okay, so I have a question here. So this question says, this question asks about app point, use of app point. So does it need any app point? So no. So this is something which does not need any app point when you go to mass 8. And yeah, then okay, so okay, there is a one more question which talks about upgrade. So this question is, which version is supported for this? So this particular version, the versions which is supported is Maximo 7.6, and then the version which is supported is Mass 8. And when you are going to keep this thing in, if you are installing this thing into Maximo 7.6, and then you are going to upgrade it, then it will be upgraded, out of the box like any other out of the box configuration, because it does not need any kind of additional steps. All are configuration, and which will be upgraded with the default upgrade installer. Okay, so that's it. I think I think that's it. From the session. So thank you so much for listening and participating.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We'll see everybody in the next session.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
Take care.